Oh, why, hello there. What's going on? One and all, Kilo Maltangon here, doing a little grid work and working on upgrading my grid. Figured this would be a good video to share as it's always nice to have a level and a layer of both protection as well as energetic integrity wherever it is that we dwell in our homes, our places of business, wherever we spend a good amount of time. Because we can actually have these grids set up pretty much in any stationary location. You can actually have them set up in mobile locations as well. However, that'll be another lesson for another day. Today, though, I want to talk a little bit about creating your own personal grid for your home or your place of business and what exactly that looks like and what that really entails. So, as we talk about grids, what you can really think of a grid as is basically a metaphysical wall that can act as a barrier for keeping things out and can also help as a container for keeping things in. Now, what that means is that we can supercharge our homes, our work, our schools, whatever it is that we want to, any place that has four walls or any kind of structure to it, we can create a metaphysical framework that can actually hold as a container at that place as well. And so when we look at that here, for example, I'm building layers of a grid here at my house. And so it's easier at a house, especially if you spend a lot of time there, because it has an established threshold. Now, a threshold is sort of a natural barrier that every home has, more than just its metaphysical walls, or rather more than just its physical walls, it's the metaphysical structure that exists as well. The culmination of memories and emotions that have been poured into a place. Where I live is my grandfather's old place, and so there's a lot of energy already here since he was the only resident here. Our family was. And so in looking at establishing a grid, it basically, again, is a metaphysical barrier or container that can keep certain things out and other things in. Now, how it works is that it basically holds a very specific geometrical pattern, and that pattern holds a very specific frequency, and that frequency continues to create a self-contained loop of energy that reinforces whatever that emotion that we're looking at is. And so there are three key points to all of this. One, an intention. Two, your imagination. Three, an investiture. Now, when we talk about these three key parts and pieces, one, the intention is a single word, a source frequency that we want to work with. Say, for example, I want to really foster love in my house, right? And so say that word is love. Now, the thing about that is that it's not just a matter of the word, it is a sensation and experience of it. It's more than just that sensation and the experience of it, because a grid is basically the material anchor for a immaterial or, more etheric energy. And in this case, love, right? And so if love is what I'm looking at, then the first thing I want to do is have a very clear sense of what that is, or at least the sensation of love. Next, on that, I want to be able to identify a crystal or crystals that are more or less in alignment with what that is. And say, for example, if I'm talking about love, then I'd probably want to do something like this, a rose quartz. Now, rose quartz is a great, great crystal in terms of its own energy of love. Crystals have a very specific kind of structure, can store information and energy. In fact, the cell phone that you're using right now, or the computer you're watching this upon, has a refined quartz crystal as a memory base, and so can be written upon and rewritten, and has the capacity to store information well beyond anything that we are able to create artificially or man-made. And so, same thing goes with these crystals. We can actually imprint upon them a frequency that allows it to be stored, and that indeed is how we have the base of our crystalline grids. Now, second, we get let's just for the ease of use, just work with love and rose quartz. Next, imagination. Now, when we talk about imagination, we want to really look at a very specific geometrical pattern that best represents that experience or that sensation or that word. And so, again, ease of use, let's just say we're going to make a heart. Okay? We're going to use a rose quartz crystals to make a heart. Now, let's say if we're looking at that, we want to have also, to a certain degree, a numerological correspondence with the geometry. All that means is that each number has a certain vibration to it. And so what is the number that best represents love, for example, right? And let's just say in this case, we're going to go with the number 6. 6 is a great number. It's about balance. It's about coherence. It's about all these different parts. So let's say for ease of use, we're going to go with love and rose quartz crystals, and that represents our intention. With our imagination, we're going to go with the geometry of a heart, and we're going to use 6 crystals to create that, all of them rose quartz. Now, the thing about that is we want to be able to easily within our mind's eye see what that is. So as you close your eyes, if you can imagine a heart relatively easily, then terrific, because that's a relatively easy geometry to imagine. Next, there's an investiture. Now, what an investiture is the emotion and the sensation of love. Now, I know we say, love is an emotion in and of itself, yet what do you feel, for example, when you feel loved? For some people, it's a matter of feeling safe. For others, it's a matter of being, held or seen. Whatever that is, we want to be able to bring it forth within our heart, because that investiture is the energy in motion, or the emotion that we're going to be pouring into the grid itself. Intention, imagination, investiture. Now we got those 3 parts in place. What we'd effectively do is we would take our crystal, or crystals in this case. I like to start in the very center of the room. Now you have 2 options with this. I guess technically 3, because you can do a mix. You can have it localized, where you just have a little grid that's just in one place. Generally the closer to the center of the house, the better. You can take those crystals and put them out into, the periphery of the house, towards its edges. That's another way you can do it, and you can kind of do a mix of both. In any case, I would recommend starting in the middle of your house, as close as you can, laying it out in its organized way, right? And so if we're doing a heart, then we take the 6 rose quartz crystals and we place them into a heart. You can get really nitty-gritty. I like to personally get really nitty-gritty, so I'll take the geometry that I'm having, and I'm going to face towards the eastern corner of the house. Okay, I'm going to face towards the eastern corner of the house, and as I face towards the eastern corner of the house, I would have the heart where I'm at the bottom, and the heart would be in front of me. Okay, and then as I sit there, I'll get myself into a more centered state, and then I'll focus on the word of love. 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 And I would allow myself just to feel into my heart center and the sensation of love, whatever that feeling is for you. And as you begin to feel it, we want to build it up. We want to build that up as we're sitting in front of our 6 rose quartz crystals laying on the ground. And as I build it up, I want it to then start to pour into the crystals themselves. Now, there's a number of different ways you can do that. You can hold your crystal, each and every one, thinking about a memory, feeling a sensation, holding it straight to your heart center, and pouring it in, and allowing that energy to really just be accumulated and accrued and accreted into the very structure of the crystal itself. Each and every one is one way. You might be able to just pour, hands out and feel that energy pouring out into the crystals themselves, however you want to do it. As it does, though, it begins to hold information. And as it holds that information, that sensation, that emotion, that energy, then it begins to be imprinted and encrypted within the crystal itself. It holds that information. Now, as it holds that information, what we begin to do is we close our eyes and we begin to visualize. Now we begin to visualize, say, seeing your house held in this big 3-dimensional heart, right? And that big 3-dimensional heart is most embodied and encompassed with the geometry that we have created. You can see it in front of you, feel it in front of you, but you really want to expand that vision so the entirety and the totality of your home, of your business, whatever it is that you are gridding, is exactly that, is held in that container. Now, if you look at some of David Hawkins' work, we look at something like love, which I believe is like 500 on his scale of consciousness, is a high resonant frequency geometry. It's one that's incredibly powerful and has the ability to, one, be able to keep things of lesser frequency out. It's sort of like a filter. And two, to build in within its own container that energy and that emotion. So as we go through all of this, then one of the really cool things to look at is being able to identify from those three things, right? Intention, imagination, and investiture, what it is that we are actively co-creating, and starting off with that basic structure, whether we're looking at safety and maybe a square, whether we're looking at inspiration and a diamond, whatever that word is for you, find that first. That is your intention. Next, identify a crystal that corresponds with that, and then get those. To figure out how many of those you need, you want to then second look at that area of imagination and see and feel what it is that you really want to create. What does that structure look like, and what number best represents and holds that information for you? Lastly, it is building that emotion up. What are the feelings that you have with the intention that you are creating? And pour that into the crystals itself. Be able to visualize it. And as you visualize it, as you experience it, as you expand it, then it creates a container of frequency of which its integrity can help to enrich and enhance your everyday life. Okay, that's it for now. Love and aloha. Take care, and ahui ho.